most of them and said, we won't let the military kill them all. We'll do some target practice on some of the ships with the Luftwaffe headed up by Hermann Goering, a World War I ace himself, head of the Luftwaffe. And they let most of them escape at Dunkirk from France to England. And then Hitler wouldn't target the major British cities. He would only target military bases. So the British launched a giant Lancaster attack to bomb Berlin, to psychologically manipulate Hitler, to retaliate, to bomb London and other British cities, to get British resolve behind the war. And I've even seen that on the History Channel. But yes, that's all there.
I thought maybe it had something to do with. I thought maybe it's had something to do with his decision to turn around and attack Stalin, Russia, and that I thought you meant maybe England had manipulated him and said, well, why don't you attack Russia and then we'll make peace with you later or something, No,
there were overtures, and that's why Heinrich Himmler and others turned themselves into the Allies and then were murdered, committed suicide. They would show up, and that's why the British, just like the globalists set up Saddam Hussein so he was easy to defeat because most of his top generals were double agents. It was the same thing with the Germans. They were British intelligence. And so Hitler never had a chance. It was all a massive setup. And that's in all the major mainline history if you really mine down deep. No, but then Hitler figured out he'd been double-crossed, and there was a deal with Stalin to take over Germany and divide up Europe. And so he turned, saying, if I can rush in with Barbarossa, Operation Barbarossa, and take over with a blitzkrieg Russia, then I can bolster and use what he called Aryan conscripts from the Russian frontier with genetic test that they would use, and they did get tens of thousands of those, but not enough. Then we'll be able to defeat England or sue for peace.
Yeah. He had been planning Barbarossa and planning to attack Russia for quite a long time, and then just finally did it. I don't know what. It did seem like there's a lot of things in that they didn't explain, or there were so many things that seemed like they were an accident, or, that was just
Shearer's book's good for an overview. If you want to hear about the secret societies and all the intrigue and how they set up the SS along Jesuit lines, it's Order of the Death's Head by Heinz Hobel. But they all have disinformation. You've got to read hundreds of books and then study original history and declassified documents to get a full spectrum breakdown.
What did you think about how Hitler used to talk all the time about, or a lot about, international financiers, and he usually said international Jewish financiers manipulating the countries into war and stuff. That's what he would talk. He talked about them and the Jewish financiers grouped around Roosevelt that wanted to get him into war and stuff. Why do you think he talked about that? Was he like being disingenuous, or was he a dupe that didn't realize? Well, no.
What? Of course, there was the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds. It's been in Anthony Sutton's books off of congressional Senate hearings that they would always fund both sides, and so there were those financiers involved in the larger system. World War I was financed by different financiers, including the Rothschilds. That's what globalism is these corporations play groups off against each other. But Hitler had a brand of eugenics that was going to focus in on mainly the Jews and others, Slavs, because they wanted to kill most of the Slavs for Lebensraum, or if that's the proper pronunciation, living space. And so it was really just a racial way to get people hyped up. But always, there's some sliver of reality within that. But Hitler also thought that England was more Aryan than Germany because England hadn't been overrun by some of the Eastern European groups and also the Arabs. And so that's why he didn't want to bomb England or bomb the cities, because of the precious Aryan blood. It's all really a bunch of convoluted stuff, but you can read about that in My Struggle, Mein Kampf. Of course, I read that. Remember, I was about 13 at the bookstore. My mom dropped me off at the mall, and I walked over and bought Mein Kampf, and I went up to buy it, and the black lady behind the counter freaked out and was like thinking I was a Nazi. And I said, lady, you're selling this book. Just because I'm reading something doesn't mean I'm that. At 13 years old, I knew that. And it was, it's just insane. But again, They go in and pick nationalistic groups. It's high-powered psychological warfare. They build it up. They financed Hitler's ideology. He was given Rockefeller awards. He was given all this funding and then told he was a big hero. Up until about 37, 38, he was a rock star in the U.S. Time Magazine Man of the Year. He was in gardening magazines. He was all over radio. He was being praised. And so he was encouraged by IBM and encouraged by a lot of these big, powerful groups to do what he did. So there were other factions, and there was a pro-Hitler faction with the Bushes, and this came out in the McCormick-Dickstein Committee, and Smedley Butler exposed it. They tried to hire him, the Marine Corps general, to stage a coup against Roosevelt, saying he was a Jewish communist. But then it all flip-flopped back and turned out it was a giant intelligence setup to manipulate Hitler. And then it's very sophisticated.
Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
So you've got your emergency food, water, guns, and ammo, right? What about your paperwork? Your medical and insurance records, legal documents, emergency plans? Keeping and knowing where those vital papers are can really prepare you. That's why you need Prepared Binder, an emergency binder designed to keep all your important documents in one safe place. See Prepared Binder at preparedbinder.com or call 480-284-1826. Prepared Binder, organized peace of mind.
In a coming-apart world, you need something to keep it tied together. That something is Atwood Rope, the highest quality rope made in the USA, from exotic braids for military, rescue, arborists, boating, tow line, shipyard, or decoration. Quality rope at affordable prices you and your customers can depend on. Find a dealer or shop online at atwoodrope.net. Enter promo code RADIO to receive a free 100 feet of 550 paracord. Atwood Rope, working to keep the world tied together.
Attention, this is a special alert to all Americans who owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS. The IRS is now accepting reduced settlements from people who owe back taxes and dramatically lowering amounts owed. Due to the financial crisis in America, the IRS has announced a leniency plan in recognition of consumers' financial troubles in today's economy. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS, an open phone line has been established by American Tax Settlement for you to call and see if you qualify for a reduction by up to 75%. Number to call is 800-902-6969. Again, the IRS is now accepting reduced settlements from consumers who owe back taxes in response to the decline in today's economy. If you are struggling with $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS, you now may be eligible for a dramatic reduction by up to 75% and save thousands of dollars. For free information and to see if you qualify, call the open phone line into American Tax Settlement now. 800-902-6969. 800-902-6969. Again, 800-902-6969.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
We're back live, continuing with your phone calls. Since the caller mentioned Hitler, I want to tell you next hour, Hitler had Jewish and African roots. DNA test of 39 living relatives show conclusively. Well, anybody in Europe, all the DNA studies have shown the original mitochondrial DNA is African. I mean, mitochondrial DNA, it never changes and is basically the original core doesn't change according to what I've seen the geneticists report on, and it's passed on and by the mother. There's two kinds of DNA. And so But they're testing the non-mitochondrial and finding it as well. I mean, Europe has been overrun over and over again. They've studied people in India. They're full of Nordic blood. They've studied people in China. They've dug up thousands of graves with people that still have hair. I've seen it in National Geographic, blonde hair, 6 foot tall. I mean, humans have been traveling everywhere. What do you think Hispanics are? They're European. Whenever they have these illegal alien rallies, they're saying, go home to Europe, pilgrim. Go home to Europe. You're European and Asian. The genetics of the pure tribal Indians of Central South America who haven't intermarried with Spanish and Portuguese folks that moved in and other ethnic groups to a certain extent, Austrian, German, there's a lot of that, French in the Caribbean, Central South America. I said I'd cover it next hour. I'm already covering it here. They are Asian. They are basically closely akin to Chinese and Japanese. If you study their genetics, going back to groups that were in northern East Asia. Because where's Japan? Japan is right up by Russia in the Pacific Ocean, the North Pacific. And it's just miles away from Russia. What color do you think the people are that live in far eastern Russia? They're Asians. They look Chinese. Well, those are the people that migrated 30,000 plus years ago, the DNA shows, into the Americas. And now I saw this on the news. I'd already seen previous reports where they've dug up Norse all over North America. They've done all this DNA testing on pure Indian tribes, Native Americans. They've even dug up graves of people that were known to be 100% pure. And it's 100% because they can go back. They can go back and tell how far back in the DNA it goes, and it goes back 5,000 years or more to Nordic people. So no one is pure Chinese or pure German or pure Jewish or pure Brit. I mean, Britain was constantly invaded over and over again by different tribes. The Brits themselves were Germanic and Visigoth groups that invaded and took over northern England. And then you had the Celtic people, Celtic, whatever you want to call it, tomato, that moved up into the north and were driven out into other areas. And you had Vikings always invading. So, of course, Hitler has Semitic blood. Of course he had African blood. I mean, it's crazy. All these people that, I mean, you know, I've seen black groups that say if you have one drop of white blood, you're a devil. And I see groups say if you have one drop of, you know, if you're an Aryan and you have one drop of somebody else's blood, you know, that you're a devil and it's the devil seed. Well, then you're all going to hell, folks, because we all come from the same mitochondrial DNA. Continuing, Hitler had Jewish and African roots. London Telegraph, Adolf Hitler is likely to have had Jewish and African roots. DNA tests have shown. Saliva samples taken from 39 relatives of the Nazi leader show he may have biological links to subhuman races, that's in quotes, that he tried to exterminate during the Holocaust. Jean-Paul Mulders, a Belgian journalist, and Mark Vermerman, a historian, tracked down the Fuhrer's relatives, including an Austrian farmer who was his cousin earlier this year. And it all shows the same thing. The chromosome called E1B1B1. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones, and I want to tell you about the Silver Lungs Generator. Now you can produce pure and endless colloidal silver and deliver the solution directly into the bloodstream by breathing the solution through the lungs. The respiratory system is the first line of defense for airborne pathogens and viruses. The Silver Lungs Generator infuses the respiratory system with your self-produced nano-silver solutions and also delivers the silver nanoparticles instantly into the bloodstream. With continued legislation threatening the sale of nano-silver products, you can now produce pure and endless colloidal silver with the Silver Lungs Generator. Very easy to follow step-by-step instructions are provided, making production fast and simple. Go to www.silverlungs.com today and learn more about the breakthrough technology of the Silver Lungs Generator. That's www.silverlungs.com.